This is how it goes down in the military. Old Dog 30, that means before dawn. The hangar breathed in silence, steel ribs overheard. Fluorescent lights hummed like restrained thunder. A multi-million-dollar fighter jet sat motionless, powerful and useless, its failure echoing louder than any alarm. Fix it before morning and you'll be recommended for officer training. Fail and you're gone. The words landed without mercy. 30 heads turned, not toward the jet, toward the young black recruit standing at the edge of the floor, hands calloused from cleaning, eyes sharpened by watching, the one assigned to janitorial duty, the one the system had quietly filed away despite his scores, aptitude, and discipline. Before him, a mop bucket. Behind him, an aircraft no one else could revive. Between them, an assumption older than the building itself that he didn't belong. He didn't argue. Men like him learned early. Survival in systems like this meant silence. For months, he swept through hangars while trained specialists worked above him, around him, sometimes through him, as if he were part of the concrete beneath their boots, invisible. But invisibility has its advantages, asked Superman. While the system looked past him, he watched. While it dismissed him, he studied. While it underestimated him, he learned. He carried a lesson handed down through generations, taught by a grandfather who once kept wartime aircraft flying, being denied a seat beside the pilots whose lives depended on his hands. Dignity, he said, is something you carry, even when no one acknowledges it. And his grandfather was one of the Tuskegee Airmen's mechanics. The institution gave the recruit a mop instead of a wrench, but it could not take his mind. In his quiet hours, he logged patterns, read manuals, took aerospace courses online, built knowledge in shadows because the system refused to let him build it in the light. Then he heard it, a whisper inside the engine, a flutter, barely audible, not a failure the diagnostics couldn't see, not a danger the experts could hear, but he knew. And he also knew what would happen if he spoke up. He tried anyway, and just like that, shut down, dismissed, silence. The message was unspoken, but unmistakable. A black janitor does not correct engineers. A black man does not correct a white man. A recruit without credentials does not challenge authority. A man the system devalues does not get to be right. Then came the public challenge. Half punishment, half performance, and one critical mistake. That they gave him access to what he was denied all along. Alone in the hangar, under the unblinking stare of security's cameras, he stood before the machine. No applause, no allies, just the weight of every moment he's been overlooked. He worked, he failed, he recalculated. Doubt pressed into his chest like a closing vice, but he remembered every ancestor whose brilliance went unsigned, every unseen mind that kept institutions alive while being denied credit. And he kept going. He found it, the aerodynamic vortex trapping debris where no one thought to look. He adjusted the inlet guide, vanes against standard procedure, then did something no manual had ever taught, a controlled, turbulent airflow purge. Risky, unapproved, necessary. The engine coughed, paused, then roared to life, clean, smooth, alive. by morning the hangar was full. Witnesses stood frozen as the impossible stood running before them, a problem solved by the very man the system insisted had no right to solve it. There was no applause, only silence, and no obligation. The promise had to be honored. He earned the recommendation. He earned officer training. He earned what he had always deserved but was never meant to access. Yet, the greater victory wasn't personal. His solution became protocol. His process became training. And others, the ones buried in invisible roles, began to surface. Finally seen, the system didn't change overnight. Systems like that never do. Ask the Tuskegee Airmen. They bent slowly, reluctantly, only under pressure from the people they once ignored. But one truth could no longer be erased. When you are erased, brilliance becomes resistance. When you are ignored, excellence becomes survival. And sometimes one possible fix becomes a lifeline, not just for you, but for everyone the system has failed to see or refuses to see. I was sent something looked like a mail-in vote. There should be no vote. What am I talking about? The primary. I'm talking about, I guess, who's going to be the next congressman. Everybody already knows who should be. But this story that I just read you talks about the people who have walked in this system of things for over 400 or 500 years, being devalued, being invisible. You know, I heard a wise man talking the other day, and he was talking about how their grandfathers, and that would have been maybe my father or grandfathers, they used to have trade schools. High school was a trade school also. If you didn't necessarily have to try to go to college. You could graduate high school and you could be a plumber, a mechanic, a painter, a carpenter. You can do all of that. But who gave the system the bright idea to take that out of the schools and only give you one avenue, and that was college? And guess what? You weren't welcome there. So they had to create HBCUs. And then they thought they had done something. But then when the HBCUs started looking a little bit, tougher than they thought. And what I mean by tougher, they had some black professors in there giving the history and all of the guidance, information, and understanding that those pupils and students needed to go out in this world and compete. And that was unacceptable. Just like in the athletics or Olympics, what is unacceptable until you are embarrassed is having black excellence. So let's stop being invisible. Do the right thing. First of all, if we break the law, then we have to pay our dues. So that should go from the very top all the way down to the police and everybody else. One standard for everybody. Okay? But I don't know if we have enough guts to do it, although we hold the power.